great power comes great responsibility.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
What were they thinking? What the fuck were they thinking?
Alright, we need to talk. Just to be clear about this, I'm 100% in love with this card game, despite its flaws. But that's also why I don't like that its infinite potential gets wasted and ends up becoming an unpleasant experience, having so much fun and entertainment to offer. The tremendous amount of cool combinations, interactions, passionate confrontation of our favorite monsters and mind-blowing galaxy brain strategies that can be made, can give us endless unforgettable experiences. But none of that matters when your opponent can just say no to your creative ideas and strategies, right? Sorry, the negation mechanic in Yu-Gi-Oh is just... That's why we can start talking about making things better after we get negations under control, and another type of cards that fall into the same issue. Yes, I'm talking about the ones commonly known as Floodgates, or cards that restrict how the game is played until they are dealt with. As much as it is also a cool thing to adapt your game style to play under the restrictions of a card like that, not all decks are in condition of doing it, so usually it ends up being just a MST, Reigeki, Kaiju or you just can't play situation. So, is there a chance for restrictive effects to be a thing and still add to the good experience? Actually, yes, it is still possible to feel confident enough in your tactics to play your deck differently in order to overcome your opponent's challenge. The problem is that those restrictive cards are not well implemented in the game, because how they are designed. In most cases they are just awfully designed just to unfairly annoy the opponent in bad taste and having to just be removed from the field to actually start doing Yu-Gi-Oh! One just can't help but to wonder.
What the fuck were they thinking?
I will now proceed to mention a few examples of how bad card design can get in Yu-Gi-Oh! Here we go. Your opponent has to remove this card from the field, negate the effects of this card, or play a good number of non-dragon monsters in their dragon decks, just to deal with this card, or else your opponent cannot activate the effect of dragons, or attack with them. Your opponent has to play a good amount of spellcaster monsters in all of their decks, or else your opponent cannot activate spells, so they can only remove this card with monsters and trap cards, so they also must have some that can remove this card. Activate this card only while your opponent controls a monster and you have no monsters in your deck. Your opponent cannot attack or activate monster effects. Your opponent must have no extra deck, or have Forbidden Droplet or Forbidden Chalice in their starting hand each and every duel, to more or less prevent wasting time and getting bored. I'm sorry if I'm being a little too honest here. I know in my duel videos I used to solve fields with negations and floodgates with, let's say, not the best deck ever, but that doesn't mean that they're well designed either or that I enjoyed the experience. I'm just extremely lucky and have a lot of experience dealing with the same type of effects over and over. Speaking of experience, I have started playing in the early 2000s and even started making my own cards at the same time, so I know a thing or two about how to design. Even when I was a kid I've made some cards that were expected to be fun and not super OP. One of them was basically a cloud that separates into two when destroyed. During the Synchro era, I predicted that in the future, if monster effects keep getting like the ones Synchro monsters had, things could eventually get out of control with monster effects that are just too much, and yup, I was right. But how do we design a Yu-Gi-Oh card the right way? Well, this is the part that makes me roll my eyes the most, because all you need to know is to look at some of the cards that are perfectly balanced in the game and learn from them. In fact, most of the cards in the game are well made. That's also why I love it so much. It is a playable fun game when the game part actually happens. The thing with the official game's card design is that sometimes, it is done right, as it is the case for the manga cards number S39, Utopia 1, or Utopia Prime, and number 93, Utopia Kaiser, both being perfectly nerfed compared to their original effects. On the other hand, number S39, Utopia the Lightning, and number S0, Utopic Zexal, got a special buff treatment to make them more effective, but might have been too much. Utopia the Lightning was basically turned into a 2 level 4 equals 5000 attack monster, and Utopic Zexal just won't allow the opponent to activate card effects during their turn. That is certainly too much. Utopic Zexal was first promoted as a way to counter number 101, but the same could have been achieved by having it become unaffected by the opponent's card effects instead. That would have been a much better design choice, and it's just one of many. To begin making good cards, you also have to know that we all get excited with our first tries and make OP cards with too many effects or that deal too much damage, but if we're making something that we want to be acceptable enough to maybe be in the official game, we have to prevent ourselves from getting to that, or we'll end up making more Red Eyes Dragoons. Well, I don't want to take more of your time. I think things are clear enough for this part. Of course, there's a lot more to be said about designing a card, but for closing this part I would like to say that when you create a card, your intentions become one with it, so, if you have good intentions, that will be reflected on the card and how it affects the duel. And, of course, let's not forget that, with great power, comes great responsibility, remember that. This has been Fran the Honest Eyes, until next time, bye.